Worlds 2025 is in the books. Man, do you hate to see her go, but genuinely love to watch her leave. It's one of the greatest months of the year, and it's also fun to wrap it up and say goodbye to it because it has been a very long month, especially for those of us that are in North America that were watching games anywhere, especially on the East Coast, between 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. start times. My sleep schedule was horrendous. Last night was the first night that I think I've got 10 hours of straight sleep in months. Part of that due to Worlds, part of that being due to my own fault. But nevertheless, let's wrap this entire thing up and put a bow on it with an annual tradition now on this channel, which I had a blast doing last year. I'm happy it was received well, so let's do it again. Worlds 2025, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I like starting with positivity first and foremost here. So, first thing I got that's good, fearless drafting. I know some people were mixed on it at the beginning of the year. The rush implementation of this after first stand did put some worry into some people, but by the time we got to this point at the end of the year, this was going to be the true litmus test for whether people could adapt or not, because those game 5 drafts, yeah, at the beginning of the year they weren't pretty. People were not properly acclimated to this system, but by the end of the year you hope it's going to be good. And honestly, I thought it was. Our final series of the year did go to 5 games, and while it definitely felt like T1 outdrafted them a bit, it felt more even than it used to be, and various game 5s that you saw throughout this tournament were way closer than people were giving it credit for. Coming into this Worlds, Esports Garage did a video talking about how this is more of an Oddcon issue and the issues that are caused by just honestly massive gaps in game 5s. Like 9 times out of 10 game 5s have not been close regardless of fearless draft, but it seemed like this Worlds did a lot to silence that narrative as well. On top of that, it just genuinely from a viewer perspective is way more fun to watch. It just simply is. Picks like Mundo, maybe they would have came out a little bit more, but I think they were forced to come out more and quicker because of fearless drafting, and I genuinely enjoyed that, not having to watch repeat matchups over and over and over again, not only throughout series but throughout days, was great. You saw the negative repercussions of this when we were in the best of one phase, and it was a lot of the same picks, and I was like, God damn, this sucks. I'm happy that fearless drafting is here to stay. Riot Games confirmed that this will be the case in 2026. I doubt there's going to be any changes. I think like next year you want to just have another year of full consistency with this. Let it fully flush out. If there's any changes that we need to make from there, fine, we can. But for now, I love where fearless drafting is at. I love the impact that it had on this Worlds in particular. And honestly, I just had a fun time with it. Period. I'm a casual viewer at heart. Like, despite the fact that I talk about this more than most people, despite the fact that I put content out there, I am like the utter essence of a casual viewer. And that's what I freaking enjoyed. Keep it. I love it. It's awesome. My second good, I have to highlight Dokla. I mean, the dude, regardless of like obviously Faker being like the superstar of Worlds, I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm saying like the social media star of Worlds was Dokla. And he was a good representation for what player content can be like during these events if you're willing to put yourself out there and put yourself on camera. His videos alone in China were hitting like 5 to 6 million a piece. He became an international superstar, simply put. Now, granted, his time in this tournament was short. Obviously, he was on one of the projected bottom 3 teams of this entire tournament. The fact that we got to see him in a best of series against a team like T1, wild. Absolutely wild. But nevertheless, Dokla laid out the blueprint for many. Not a blueprint that you need to follow exactly. His style of humor is going to be his own. But a blueprint for players that says, yes, if you engage with the community in very small but impactful and meaningful ways, you can grow your brand very, very quickly. Because Dokla's stock has now risen tenfold from where it was at the beginning of this tournament. Good job to him, and players, take note. This was a fun thing to watch each and every day while 100 Thieves was still at Worlds. The biggest good that I got in this category is that the elimination of that break week between quarters and semis was so nice this year. Like, so nice. If you take yourself back to last year and every year prior for the most part, where you have like 4 games for quarterfinals, then you have a 6-day break, and then you have a semifinal game, and then another 6-day break, and then finals. Oh man, did it feel terrible. It felt horrible having all that time with nothing to do, and you're just sitting there like speculating about the tournament. Like, realistically, we could add a day break between quarters and semis if we want to like give that a little bit more time to breathe than what happened this year. But I'm fine with how it was, and I just think overall the pacing of that specific stage was great. It was perfect. Work during the week between quarters and semis used to be almost unbearable at that point. And by the time you got to finals, it was like, oh, are you kidding me? Now, to be clear, I know there are some people that want that break between semifinals and finals to go away. Absolutely not. I'm a big fan of that point. And the reason why I say that also selfishly, because Worlds is going to be here in New York City next year, that week prior is massive for media. For people like myself, for content creators, it lets us help build up a narrative. It lets you have events in the area. So for New York City next year, that week is going to be massive. We're going to constantly be having events around the city. You have the team panels, the artists that are doing the World's opening ceremonies come out. Sponsors come in and do a whole bunch of activations. So your boy's trying to get paid next year. Please do not eliminate that week, folks. I need it there. If it's anything like Red Bull activated during quarterfinals of the year prior, yes, like this is going to be big for New York. The community activations are part of what makes this a larger than life spectacle, which I will touch on a little bit later in this tournament, because that is a very important thing that I want people to remember, is that the spectacle and entertainment of all of this, while it is a competition, is paramount. And you need that media week. So people, please do not forget that. I know you might not see fully the effects of this, but I'm telling you, they are felt in the local economies of the places that this tournament goes to, and they are felt in the creator economy as we continue to build up hype and tension going into that final series. So while I'm happy that the quarters and semis gap was entirely eliminated, we need to make sure that finals gap is still kept there. Trust me, it is worth it. If we got rid of it, it would, like, you'd notice the fall off pretty immediately. Really quick, a good after last year. Last year, the venue choices, a little sus, to say the least, with the Swiss stage being in the LEC studio, the group stage being in the Adidas Arena, which housed like 7,000 people, and then finals was great last year, not taking anything away from that. But the venue choices this year, for Swiss stage being in like a full amphitheater, having multiple thousand people there for that. Was it the Mercedes-Benz Arena for quarters and semis? Fantastic. That arena was awesome. I think, in my opinion, I think that was the best arena of the entire thing. Like, even though Chengdu was great for finals and the setup was cool and interesting, when I looked at like the actual setup, like when they had the lights on, I will say I definitely think the O2 Arena blew it out of the water. Like, I don't think it was even close. And I think whether it's at MSG or the Barclays Center this upcoming year, like, we have the potential to make it even more insane, that like on par with the O2 Arena. So I wasn't as impressed with the finals arena, but overall the finals, like, the World's venue choices, fantastic, and the crowds lived up to the hype exactly where you needed to. Even whenever Chinese teams were not playing, they showed up and they delivered, which is something that obviously happens or is an issue with some Korean teams or Worlds in Korea. But here, at least, they showed up, they showed out, and I'm proud of them. Finally, and this is very much opinionated, match quality felt good. I don't know, like, besides drafting, it just felt like series were close when you wanted or expected them to be close. There were a few series that we didn't think would be close, but were. And for the most part, the blowouts were the blowouts. Like, expectation and quality for what we should have gotten felt like it was on par or slightly above expectations. So I'd say that's a good overall. Nothing to complain about. Now, the bad. We do got to talk about it because there's a few more this year, I feel like, than prior years. The first bad is best of ones. Were god awful. Like, I hated the Swiss stage best of one period in a world where Fearless is the standard, and that's what people are playing and prepping for. Those 2 days of best of ones, while you get a lot of games in, you get 16 games over the course of 48 hours. That might be fun in theory, and in prior years without Fearless, I think it felt better. But this year, it tangibly felt worse. Like, it just did not feel good. That is not helped by the pooling system that is used to draw teams. I get it. Like, there needs to be a full revamp on that, and just like stop trying to protect the LCS, the LEC, the LT or the LCP one seeds. Like, just throw us to the wolves. Like, we deserve it at this point. Allow the matchups to be good, but most importantly, get rid of those best of ones. They suck. They're horrible to watch. The draws, fun. Best of ones, not. Second is illnesses. And I put this on the bet. I know it's out of people's control necessarily, but you felt the impact of people being sick during Swiss stage pretty heavily. PSG, at the time of me recording this, just released their documentary, which showed just how sick some of the players on that roster were. Not that they necessarily were going to stand a chance. Like, they were the 3 seed coming into things, but they weren't the only ones. T1 looked rough early on in this tournament, would eventually go on to win, but they talked about how multiple players on their team were not feeling good and were feeling sick. Now, I don't know if this is just because like esports does not travel enough. Like, we spend a lot of time inside. We're isolated from the outside world. We're not exposed to illnesses. So whenever these guys travel and go to new places, everybody seems to get sick. Like, I don't know what exactly is the cause of this, but it's a trend that happens over and over again. I was able to excuse it in 2022 because obviously COVID was a thing for us, was a thing for everybody. But like, now the fact that it's still getting to this point where we have people that are dealing with pretty massive illnesses during the Swiss stage of this tournament, it's a problem. Like, it's a legitimate issue that I don't know how we fix or solve other than like just teams getting there earlier. Like, I'll touch on this in the ugly section, but maybe you allow for more games that are happening before this where the best teams in the world can show up and adapt to the climate a little bit better prior to their games even beginning. I don't know. I don't have a good answer besides that. And the final bad that I'll add, and this is selfishly for me, Mark Z, I love you, man. Why couldn't you let me co-stream that final T1 versus 100 Thieves series? It was the final time that 100 Thieves would ever play League of Legends. You went to sleep, brother. I didn't need to stream it on the LCS channel. You could have given me temporary rights on my channel. Why didn't you let me do it? I'm salty about that. Selfishly, I'm very salty about that. Final game ever, and I couldn't. I know I don't have co-streaming rights. I know I'm fighting hard for that for LCS, and I'm gonna make like a public push to try and get co-streaming rights for next year. But man, like, come on, Mark, you couldn't have given me this one. Really? That's bad. All right, before we get into the ugly, I'm a big fan of doing the greats. Like, again, I like balancing out the positivity with the negativity, and there were 3 things in particular that were great about this tournament. First, lore and the broadcast. Lore being the representative for KT, obviously they made it far into this tournament, so she got to do a bunch of stuff with the team on TikTok and on social media. The broadcast in general played a bunch into the bits of KT, but just this tournament as a whole on broadcast, I felt like the clips that came out of it were so damn good the entire way through. I genuinely enjoyed every bit of the broadcast that I did see, which unfortunately was not much due to the time zone of this world. So like between games, I was like falling back asleep again. But for the bits that I saw, they did great. And I'm so happy the broadcast crew was on site. It made a world of difference watching Shox and Captain Flowers and everybody else on the Great Wall of China and exploring like the country and beyond. It's just so much fun. I like, we live vicariously through the broadcast talent, and man, was it just fun to see over there from start to finish. Oh, it was so good. Second, on the similar front, I'm really proud of the great coverage that happened with all the content creators in the North American space and beyond this year. The creator cadence that we had, where you would wake up, you'd watch the highlights of the games, you could tune in to Psychopathic Poro, immediately followed by JLXP. Jat was on top of his shit. Being back home, you had various different podcasts, you had short form coverage all over the place. Like, I'm really happy with how myself and everybody else in the creator cadence that we provided for a North American and European audience who weren't watching games live and needed to have like pieces out there for people to discuss what happened the day prior during our workday when we're all awake. I'm really, really happy with how that cadence went this year. I think everybody was on their shit. It was a great touch. And next year, I think, is going to be really interesting because now, like, we are going to be watching games live for those of us in North America. So our coverage will be different because a lot of that will be filmed either that night going into the next morning, but that kind of changes the perspective. Like, now we're projecting how things are going to go tomorrow. It's one of those weird things that if you notice, like ESPN broadcasting, they do like a lot of recap coverage in the morning, previewing in the afternoon, and then games at night. So like the transition of that content and each creator figuring out where they fit in that puzzle next year is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And finally, the other great, no roster mania during this Worlds. Or like, obviously there was going to be some, but the massively reduced impact of roster mania during like the off day headlines this year was great. Loved every bit of it. It didn't feel like it took away from Worlds, where in prior years it very much did. And that is a byproduct of those reduced off days between quarters and semis. So really, really happy about that one. Now the ugly. All right, first, I'm going to take a pot shot at my region just because I have to. our performance, North America's performance at Worlds, pitiful, like ugly, like one of the worst that we've had in quite a while. And just honestly, overall, a fairly ugly year, I guess, for international results. Missing the best of 5 stage, first stand, nobody getting out of Swiss for the first time since 2022. Even though 100 Thieves did get knocked out by the champions, by T1, when they started to rebound after being 1-2 in the tournament and started going on their run. And while that's something to a certain extent to be proud of, it's proud to be proud of in a North American way, where it's like, yeah, we lost to the champs, and then FlyQuest freaking imploded, and now the roster's entirely blowing up. So like, oh man, like Jesus, like didn't inspire much hope there. And Worlds on North American soil next year, whenever the past 2 times that we've had Worlds in North America, we have had utterly garbage results. Like it's a scary time for North American fans that we need to do a lot to reinvigorate hope after these results, because it does not leave the best impression, if we're being entirely honest. It was just ugly. Simple as that. And my final ugly might be subjective. I know there will be some people that entirely disagree with the sentiment, but I know there are many that do agree with it. And that is, this is the first Worlds that honestly did not entirely feel like a Worlds. Because of the amount of reduced games played, and honestly, to me, the entire elimination of the play-in stage, which kind of gave it this international feel. Like Worlds is about all the teams around the world coming together, which includes the best teams, the 4 from China and the 4 from Korea, but also teams from all of the old minor regions. The elimination of that and the play-in stage just being T1 versus IG completely ruined our ability to kind of build up the stakes as you go on. You were just hit with it immediately. So it felt like the tournament never had time to breathe. And DPM put out their chart. I mean, I'll have it out here for you now. We played the least amount of games we've ever had during the modern era of Worlds. Like, what else do you say about that? Like, that's not good. I don't want reduced games during Worlds. Now, where this goes from here is an interesting conversation, because there's going to be one of 2 ways that people take this. First, people will use this as a reason to say, hey, we need double elimination in Worlds, of which I've made it very clear. I know there are going to be people that are for that. I'm not. I prefer single elimination. I like that how it is. Me personally, I'm of the belief that you want to try and build up the tournament as it goes on in a similar way that Counter-Strike majors do, where you have this early Swiss stage with the teams that obviously aren't going to win, but could work their way up and start a Cinderella run. And then you have another Swiss stage in the middle that then feeds into a single elimination bracket. Okay? I'm not saying we need to do a full other Swiss between the play-in stage. I understand that's not going to happen. But at least have that week beforehand. The number of games missing is literally just pretty much the play-in game count. That's it. Bring back the play-in stage. Figure out a way. You don't need to have China or Korea in there. They don't deserve to be in there. All of them deserve to be out immediately in the Swiss stage. Like T1 was the 4th seed coming into this year. There's a hawk flying in the background. Oh my God. I wish I could show you that without doxing myself, but oh my God. Sorry. Got distracted. We don't need the 4th seed from Korea going into play-in stage and eventually winning the entire thing. What we need is the non-1 seeds of Europe, of North America, of the LCP, and all of Brazil going into that tournament to duke it out for the remaining spots in Swiss stage. That's what we need, in my opinion. That allows you this time to really kind of feel like Worlds is getting a foothold on itself, see what these crazy metas look like from the minor regions. Will that adapt into the major region meta that will evolve in Swiss stage as we go on, which hopefully eliminates best of 1s on top of that? Like, there's a lot of things that, in my opinion, need to be done to make sure that we get back to this feel of Worlds feeling like this massive celebration of League, not just this hyper competitive, hey, we want the best teams in the world doing this, let's eliminate all the fluff. The fluff was your entertainment value, and honestly, a lot of the feel of this tournament. And it's why so many people are saying it felt soulless. So yes, I do have that as an ugly. But overall, I would say this Worlds was incredibly entertaining, especially for one where the American audience isn't going to be watching all that much. Not only because we got eliminated fairly quick, but 2, the time zone was terrible for us. But next year, we finally got 1 in our time zone and first stands in Brazil. So like overall, next year is going to be a big year for North America for us to be able to rebound and hopefully push things in the right direction. I hope you'll all be along for the ride with me. I know I posted a short form video about this, but I know after Worlds, the numbers on my channel will start dropping again slightly as I get back to just the people that are here to focus on NA or are interested in hearing the NA storylines, which I get isn't a lot of people internationally, but hopefully I can deliver those storylines to you in a way that makes you interested and maybe helps our region eventually rebound, in addition to all the things that we're doing here in New York City. That I'm going to save for a video on Friday. But I will close out this video by saying Worlds was a blast. And if you enjoyed any specific creators or players or personalities, be sure to vote for them in the League Awards, which voting is now live. At least our submission for candidates. Like, you can go in and put your favorite creators, your favorite players, and beyond as a write-in candidate. That then the top results will all come together and they'll give us a list to vote upon. I'm not trying to push for myself whenever saying this. I'm just telling you, I genuinely believe that award shows like this are actually a very important part of communities. Look at the reactions to the Grammys and the nominations that happen there. It is a big honor for those of us that work in the space if we do get any nominations, but just in general, it serves as this culmination point for the entire year for us to celebrate and send it off before going into the year after. So put your nominations and submissions in for the League Awards. I don't know if I'll be able to co-stream the actual thing. I think it falls on like Thanksgiving weekend or the weekend. I don't know. I'll have more details later. But that's it. That's it for my Worlds coverage. Not much else to add. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.